Welcome back, everyone, to your personalized deep dive into current affairs, specifically curated, of course, for your UPSC preparation.
Absolutely. And we're focusing on part two of our review for March 25th, 2025.
Right, March 25th, 2025. And, you might actually find that we've touched on some of these topics before.
Yeah, a few might sound familiar.
So think of this as a really good opportunity to revise those topics as you continue your preparation.
Exactly. A chance to solidify your understanding and really connect those dots.
Well, let's jump into it. We've got quite the range of recent developments.
Oh, a truly fascinating mix from surprising ecosystems thriving in the Antarctic depths
Yeah, under the ice in Antarctica.
to some really crucial debates surrounding social media regulation in India.
That's right. So we're going to delve into that remarkable discovery of life beneath the Antarctic ice, unpack the core arguments around social media platforms, and then explore the complex world of transgenic organisms and their implications.
All that, and we'll also examine a parliamentary report on India's vital fisheries sector.
That's right, the fisheries sector.
Concerns being raised about our nutrient-based subsidy schemes,
Really important.
and also Delhi's adoption of a nationwide digital governance platform.
Okay, so a lot on the plate there.
But that's not all. We've got a few more fascinating topics to uncover.
All right, lay it on us.
We're going to shed some light on the identification of a novel organometallic molecule,
Ooh.
reflect on the significance of a key figure in Indian history,
All right.
and also address this growing phenomenon of, well, what's being called AI washing.
AI washing.
Indeed. And in addition to that, we'll remember our national martyrs, understand India's recent imposition of trade measures, celebrate a major literary achievement,
Lots to celebrate.
note the progress in agricultural exports,
Good news.
and explore the characteristics of a newly discovered algal species.
Wow, a packed agenda as always.
We aim to do more than just present these topics, though.
Right, it's about really understanding them.
Exactly. We want to connect the threads, extract the core insights,
The ones that truly matter.
and really equip you with a robust perspective on these events as you prepare for the UPSC.
It's about making these events make sense, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's dive right in. And how about we start with something truly unexpected? Those flourishing ecosystems we mentioned, deep beneath the ice in Antarctica.
This is a truly fascinating discovery, and what's particularly striking is the context.
Okay, the context. So fill us in.
This wasn't just a random finding.
No.
It emerged from a global effort, the Challenger 150 initiative.
Okay, Challenger 150, haven't heard of that one.
It's endorsed by UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission as part of the UN's Ocean Decade Action.
Wow, so a serious international collaboration?
Yes, and that really highlights the global importance of understanding our oceans.
Definitely. And what they've uncovered is just astonishing.
It really is.
At depths of 1,300 meters.
Think about that. That's well into the mesopelagic zone.
Deep, deep down.
They've found thriving ecosystems populated by large corals and sponges.
Now, how is that even possible?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And these support a diverse array of animal life.
Like, what kind of creatures are we talking about?
Well, you've got your ice fish, and then these incredible giant sea spiders.
Giant sea spiders, okay.
Almost alien-looking.
Wow, it's hard to imagine.
It does stretch the imagination, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
These ecosystems have existed in complete isolation beneath a 150-meter thick ice shelf,
150 meters,
potentially for centuries, cut off from the sunlight.
cut off from everything, basically.
Exactly, and from the surface-derived nutrients that most deep-sea ecosystems rely on.
So how are they surviving?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
This isolation raises a lot of questions about the adaptations they've developed.
Right. How have they evolved to survive in such an extreme environment?
Exactly, and it also makes you think about the potential impact of climate change.
Yeah, how might these fragile ecosystems respond to changes in ice shelf stability or ocean currents?
Precisely, very important questions.
And did you say they even discovered new species down there?
They did, yes. Alongside those giant sea spiders,
Amazing.
various octopi, a phantom jellyfish. Can you imagine this? It can grow up to a meter in diameter.
A meter! Wow, that's a huge jellyfish.
And then a vase-shaped sponge that could potentially be hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of years old. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? Just how much of our planet is still unexplored.
It really is. And this discovery really emphasizes the biodiversity and resilience of deep-sea ecosystems in general.
So this isn't just about what they found in Antarctica.
No, it's a broader point.
Okay.
It reminds us that the deep sea, the ocean and seabed, below 200 meters.
And it's a lot of the ocean.
It makes up about 90% of Earth's entire marine environment.
Wow, 90%.
It's the largest biome on our planet.
And we're only just scratching the surface of understanding it.
Exactly. There's so much more to learn.
So let's break down this deep sea a little more. You mentioned these abyssal plains.
Yes, those are fascinating.
What are they exactly?
Imagine vast, flat, muddy expanses on the ocean floor.
Sounds pretty barren.
They might seem that way, dark and muddy,
Right.
but life finds a way. Creatures like sea cucumbers.
Oh, yeah. Sea cucumbers, they always look so strange.
They rely on what we call marine snow for sustenance.
Marine snow. So it's like snowing underwater?
Well, not exactly snow, but it is a shower of organic material.
Oh, I see. Drifting down from above.
Right, from the upper ocean layers.
Interesting. So that's their food source.
It is, and it plays a crucial role in carbon sequestration, too.
Okay, so locking away carbon in the deep sea, that's good for the climate.
Absolutely, a vital part of the planet's carbon cycle.
Then you have these hydrothermal vents.
Yeah, incredibly interesting environments.
Well, nice and unique.
They're like geysers on the seafloor, hot, mineral-rich fluids escaping from the Earth's crust.
Wow. And supporting entire ecosystems.
They do, based on chemosynthetic bacteria.
Bacteria that thrive on chemicals instead of sunlight.
Right, and these bacteria then support all sorts of fascinating creatures.
Like
tube worms and yeti crabs.
Yeti crabs? What are those?
They're these furry-looking crabs. Quite strange.
Oh, I'll have to look those up. They sound fascinating.
They are really unique adaptations to that environment.
And we can't forget about whale falls.
Oh yes, the circle of life in the deep sea.
Explain that one.
Well, when a whale dies and its carcass sinks to the seafloor,
Okay.
it creates this massive concentrated feast
Oh.
for specialized scavengers like hagfish.
Hagfish, those slimy, eel-like creatures.
The very same, they play a crucial role in breaking down the whale's remains.
It's a whole ecosystem built around a whale carcass.
Exactly, a reminder of the interconnectedness of life down there.
Really amazing. So these deep sea ecosystems, they're not just a curiosity.
Not at all. They're significant for a whole host of reasons.
Okay, tell me more.
Think about bioluminescence, the ability of creatures to produce their own light.
Like anglerfish with their glowing lures.
Exactly, and ctenophores, these beautiful comb jellies that shimmer.
And they use this light for what?
Communication, attracting prey, defense mechanisms.
Very clear.
Then you've got these massive vertical migrations of zooplankton and fish,
Moving up and down the water column.
precisely following food sources and avoiding predators.
A constant dance in the darkness.
That's a great way to put it. And then there's the carbon storage we talked about.
The abyssal plains acting as carbon sinks.
Yes, a crucial role in regulating our global climate.
And some deep-sea creatures have these incredibly slow metabolisms.
Like the sleeper shark, barely moving, conserving energy.
Wow, they must live for a long time.
It used some for centuries.
Incredible. So all of this underscores their importance to the planet's balance.
Absolutely vital components of Earth systems.
Okay, well, let's shift gears now. Move away from the depths of the ocean
A complete change of scenery.
to a really pressing issue, the debate surrounding the regulation of social media in India.
Yes, this is a hot topic right now.
And specifically, this challenge from the platform X.
X, yes. They're taking on the government's use of Section 709 3B of the IT Act.
The Information Technology Act 2000.
That's right, quite a mouthful.
It is. So what's the heart of X's argument?
They're essentially saying that using Section 709 3B to regulate and remove content.
To basically censor content.
In a way, yes. They argue it bypasses the safeguards under Section 69A.
Okay, two different sections of the same act.
Two very important sections, and their interpretation is key here.
Right, so let's break this down for our listeners. Section 79 first.
What does that one cover?
Well, it provides something called safe harbor protection.
Safe harbor, what does that mean?
It shields intermediaries from legal liability for user-generated content.
Intermediaries, those are.
Like social media platforms, internet service providers, those kinds of online service providers.
Okay, so they're not held responsible for everything their users post.
That's the general idea.
Okay, makes sense, but then you have this 79 3B.
Right, and this is where things get a bit more complex.
A little nuanced, yeah.
So this subsection says that the safe harbor protection can be taken away
Revoked, yes.
if the intermediary doesn't block or remove unlawful content.
When notified by the government.
Right, so there's a condition attached.
The crucial condition.
And this is where the conflict with Section 69A comes in.
Ah, yes, 69A.
This section specifically gives the government the power to block public access to online information.
A powerful tool.
It is, but it's not unlimited.
Right. It has to be justified.
Exactly. It can only be used on specific grounds.
Those grounds being,
Things like national security, public order, decency, reasonable restrictions on freedom of speech.
and those restrictions are enshrined in
Article 19(2) of our Constitution.
the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression.
Exactly. A very important balance to maintain.
Definitely. And the Shreya Singhal judgment in 2015 really reinforced that.
That was a landmark case.
It was. It basically said the censorship of online content,
Censorship, a strong word.
it is, but it has to be done properly
Through the procedures in 69A or a court order.
to prevent arbitrary or overly broad restrictions.
Right, a crucial safeguard.
And then we had the Media Directive in 2023.
Mahidi, that's the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology.
Yes, and this directive broadened the scope of who could issue blocking orders.
Under 79(3)(b).
Right, so it wasn't just the central government anymore.
Who else could issue them?
Various ministries, state governments, even law enforcement agencies.
Wow, a lot more players involved.
And then in 2024, they launched the Sayog portal.
To streamline the process.
Exactly, for issuing and uploading these blocking orders.
So a lot of developments in this area.
And X is challenging the very heart of it.
Their main point being.
That 79.3 doesn't actually give the government direct blocking powers.
Like 69A does.
Right. They say it just sets out the conditions for losing safe harbor protection.
So a more indirect approach?
Exactly. And they argue that this bypasses the due process and procedural fairness that 69A provides.
So it's a very subtle but important distinction.
It is a legal nuance with potentially big implications.
It highlights this constant tension between a government's need to maintain order and protect its citizens.
And an individual's right to express themselves freely online.
A very delicate balance.
It is, and one that will continue to be debated and refined.
Okay, well, let's move on to a totally different field now, the world of transgenic organisms.
Transgenic organisms, these have been in the spotlight recently.
Yeah, partly because of that misstatement, but let's start with the basics. What exactly are they?
A transgenic organism is basically an organism whose genome, its genetic makeup,
The building blocks of life.
has been altered by introducing foreign DNA.
DNA from another species.
Precisely. And this allows them to express new traits or produce proteins that they wouldn't naturally have.
So it's like giving them new abilities.
In a way, yes. And the word transgenic comes from trans, meaning across.
One to another.
Exactly. And genetic, referring to genes.
So it's about transferring genes across species.
That's the basic idea.
And the most famous example is probably the transgenic mouse.
Oh, absolutely. A staple of research.
Why are they so important?
Well, they're incredibly valuable for studying human diseases and biological processes.
Because they're similar to us in some ways.
Yes, physiologically, anatomically, even genetically.
So we can learn about ourselves by studying them.
Exactly. And the applications go way beyond basic research.
What else can they be used for?
Well, for one, understanding normal physiological processes.
Like how our bodies work.
Right. So scientists might create transgenic mice with specific genes knocked out.
To see what happens.
Exactly. Or they might overexpress a gene.
To see how that affects the organism.
And this helps us understand things like metabolism, blood cell production, all sorts of fundamental processes.
Really interesting.
And then there's the creation of animal models for human diseases.
So using animals to study diseases that affect humans.
Yes, a crucial tool in medical research.
What kind of examples are there?
Well, you might have transgenic pigs that exhibit characteristics of Alzheimer's disease.
So scientists can study the disease progression.
Exactly, and test potential therapies.
And I've heard about transgenic zebrafish being used for drug development.
Yes, they're fantastic for high-throughput drug screening.
So testing lots of different drug candidates quickly.
Right, and then we have the production of therapeutic proteins.
Well, like medicines.
Yes, so you might have transgenic goats that produce human antithrombin in their milk.
Antithrombin, what's that?
It's a protein that prevents blood clots, so it's used as a medicine.
And they get it from goat's milk.
Exactly, it's a biomanufacturing approach.
Wow, pretty incredible.
It is, and then perhaps the most well-known application is in agriculture.
Genetically modified crops.
Yes, things like brew cotton, which is resistant to bollworms.
Brute cotton, I know that's been a big success story.
It has a major example of how genetic modification can address specific challenges.
So how does it actually work?
Well, they take a gene from a bacterium called Bacillus thuringiensis,
Bacillus thuringiensis, okay.
or brew for short, and this gene produces a protein that's toxic to bollworms.
So it acts as a natural insecticide?
Exactly. They insert this gene into the cotton plant.
Using a vector.
Right, a carrier for the genetic material.
And then the cotton plant starts producing this protein.
And when the bollworms eat the cotton, they die.
So a very targeted way to control pests.
Precisely. And it reduces the need for chemical pesticides.
Which is good for the environment.
And for human health.
But there are also concerns about genetically modified organisms, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are ethical considerations, environmental risks.
People worry about the unintended consequences.
Yes, and that's why regulation is so important.
To ensure these technologies are used responsibly.
Exactly. In India, we have guidelines like the Rules 1989 under the Environment Protection Act 1986.
The whole legal framework.
And the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, or GEAC, plays a crucial role.
They evaluate the safety of GMOs
before they can be released or used commercially.
So a lot of oversight to try and mitigate those risks.
Definitely. It's a complex area with a lot of factors to consider.
Okay, let's move on now to another important sector, fisheries.
Fisheries, a vital part of the Indian economy.
And there's this new report from the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture.
Yes, a comprehensive look at the state of the sector.
And they highlight both achievements and challenges.
Absolutely, a balanced perspective.
So where does India stand in terms of fish production?
Well, we're currently the third largest fish-producing country in the world.
Third largest, wow.
Contributing about 8% of global production.
And it's a growing sector, right?
It is. The contribution to our agricultural GVA has been increasing steadily.
GVA, that's gross value added.
Yes, it's gone from around 4% to over 6.72% in recent years.
So fisheries are playing an increasingly important role.
Definitely. And the report highlights some key issues that need to be addressed.
Okay, what are the main concerns?
Well, one major point is the lack of a dedicated research body.
For fisheries, specifically?
Yes, currently it falls under the ICAR, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research.
Which covers a lot of ground.
It does, but the committee feels that fisheries need more focused attention.
So they recommend
setting up a dedicated Indian Council for Fishery and Aquaculture Research.
ICFAR.
Yeah, exactly. To really drive research and innovation in the sector.
And another concern is juvenile fish harvesting.
Yes, this is damaging fish stocks.
They're being caught before they can reproduce.
Right, and destructive practices like bull trawling and LED fishing are making it worse.
LED fishing, how does that work?
They use high-intensity lights to attract fish. Very disruptive.
So the committee wants to crack down on this.
Yes, they recommend strict enforcement of minimum legal mesh size regulations.
MLS, so making sure the nets have bigger holes to let young fish escape.
That's the idea, and a complete ban on those harmful fishing methods.
Protecting the future of our fisheries.
Exactly. Sustainability is key.
What about post-harvest losses? I know that's a big problem.
It is. A lot of fish is lost due to poor infrastructure.
Lack of cold storage, processing facilities, those kinds of things.
Yes, we're talking about 20–25% of the catch going to waste.
That's a huge amount.
It is. And the committee recommends strengthening the cold chain and processing infrastructure.
Under the PMLSY, the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana.
Exactly. That scheme is already in place, but it needs to be scaled up.
And what about access to credit for fishers?
That's another crucial issue. They need affordable loans.
The Kisan credit card scheme covers some, right?
It does. Some states provide an additional interest subvention on KCC loans.
But not all states.
No, the coverage is limited, so the committee recommends expanding interest-free KCC loans to all eligible fishers.
Nationwide access to credit.
Yes, that would make a big difference.
And I've heard we're very reliant on imports for shrimp broodstock.
Yes, particularly for the Vanamai shrimp.
Which is a big export earner.
It is, so the committee wants to boost domestic broodstock development.
Through ICAR research.
Exactly, to reduce our dependence on imports.
And they even considered fishers living near dams?
A often overlooked group.
What are their specific challenges?
Well, they often face big losses when dam gates are opened suddenly.
Or during heavy rains.
Right, the water flow can wash away their fish stocks.
So the committee recommends
introducing an insurance scheme similar to the PMFBY.
The Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana.
Yes, which covers crop losses for farmers.
So an equivalent scheme for fishers affected by dam operations.
Exactly. A safety net for their livelihoods.
And finally, they talk about export competitiveness.
Yes, we need to improve our sanitary and phytosanitary measures.
SPS, to meet international standards.
Exactly, in areas like hygiene, food safety, disease control.
So we can overcome trade barriers and boost exports.
Precisely, opening up new markets for our fisheries products.
Okay, well, that's a very comprehensive report.
It is a lot of ground covered.
Now, let's turn our attention to agricultural inputs, specifically the concerns around nutrient subsidy schemes.
Yes, this is a crucial issue for our farmers.
And the Fertilizers Committee has sounded the alarm about potential underfunding.
Underfunding of the NDS schemes, the nutrient-based subsidy scheme.
Right, so what's the problem?
Well, the Department of Fertilizers projected a need for about 1.84 lakh crore.
For various fertilizer subsidy schemes in 2025-26.
But the Ministry of Finance has allocated considerably less.
How much less?
It's reportedly around 7% lower than what's needed.
So that affects both the MBS and the urea subsidy scheme.
Both crucial for ensuring affordable fertilizers.
So what else did the committee highlight?
Well, they stress the need to strengthen our fertilizer security.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, we've seen recent geopolitical disruptions, price volatility in global markets.
Leading to shortages.
Yes, like the DAP shortage we experienced.
Diammonium phosphate.
Right, a tree fertilizer.
So we need to be more self-reliant.
Exactly, less vulnerable to external factors.
What about raw materials for fertilizer production?
That's another concern. We rely heavily on imports for things like phosphates and potash.
And the committee isn't happy about that?
They'd like to see more proactive initiatives to secure long-term mining leases.
To increase domestic production.
Yes, reduce our dependence on imports.
And what about soil-specific fertilizers?
The government promotes them.
NPKs fertilizers tailored to different soil types.
Yes, but the committee found that they're not always readily available.
So farmers might not be getting the optimal mix of nutrients.
Exactly, and it can lead to higher costs.
What about the DBT system?
Direct benefit transfer, yes, that was also scrutinized.
The idea is to transfer subsidies directly to farmers' accounts.
Right, but the committee pointed out a lack of beneficiary verification.
So there are concerns about misuse.
Yes, subsidies going to ineligible recipients.
That needs to be tightened up.
Definitely. Better targeting is essential.
And what about those nano-fertilizers I've been hearing about?
Nano-urea and nano-DAP, they hold promise.
More efficient nutrient delivery.
Yes, but the committee stressed the need for more research.
To make sure they're effective and safe in the long run.
Exactly. Field trials are crucial.
So a cautious approach to new technologies.
Absolutely. Thorough evaluation is essential.
Okay, so what did the committee recommend?
Well, they suggested several things. First, enforcing supply compliance by manufacturers.
Making sure they produce enough fertilizer?
Yes, and ensuring a balanced distribution across regions.
Based on soil requirements.
Exactly, so the right fertilizers go to the right places.
Sounds sensible.
They also recommended setting up a fertilizer crisis early warning system.
FCEWS, so we can anticipate shortages.
And build up buffer stocks.
To avoid those price spikes and disruptions.
Precisely. Proactive planning is key.
And they talked about Aadhaar integration with the Farmers Registry.
Yes, that would help target subsidies more effectively.
To prevent leakage and misuse.
Exactly. And it could enable dynamic purchase limits based on landholding size.
So a more tailored approach.
Precisely. And finally, they advocated for promoting urea gold.
Urea coated with sulfur.
Yes, it's supposed to improve soil health and reduce overall urea consumption.
So a win-win for the farmer and the environment.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, and just to clarify for our listeners, what is the NBS policy exactly?
The nutrient-based subsidy policy. It provides fixed subsidies per unit of nutrient.
Nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, and sulfur.
And it covers 28 grades of P&K fertilizers.
Phosphatic and potassic fertilizers.
Yes. And manufacturers have some flexibility in setting the MRP.
The maximum retail price.
But the government monitors it to ensure affordability.
And there are separate subsidies for micronutrients too.
Right, a comprehensive approach.
And what about the urea subsidy scheme?
That aims to keep urea affordable for farmers.
Urea being a key nitrogenous fertilizer.
Yes, crucial for food production.
And the government wants to maximize domestic urea production.
To become self-sufficient and reduce imports.
So a strategic approach to fertilizer management.
Absolutely. Ensuring food security and supporting our farmers.
Okay, let's move on now to a positive development in digital governance.
Digital governance, a key area for modern India.
And Delhi has just joined the NIVA platform.
The National e-Vidhan application.
Quite a mouthful.
It is, but it's a significant step towards paperless governance.
So what does NIVA actually do?
It's a workflow management system.
To make things run more smoothly.
Exactly, and it's deployed on the Migraj cloud infrastructure.
So it's a secure and scalable system.
Yes, and the aim is to make legislative proceedings completely paperless.
So no more piles of documents.
Exactly. Everything is digital,
And who developed this platform?
The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, or MOPE,
So a national effort to modernize our legislatures.
and it's designed to be very user-friendly.
How so?
Well, it's device agnostic, so legislators can access it from anywhere.
On their phones, tablets, laptops.
Any device with an internet connection.
And it provides a secure digital repository for all the legislative data.
So everything is stored safely and can be easily accessed.
A big step towards transparency and efficiency.
Definitely. A good example of digital transformation in action.
Okay, let's switch gears again to the world of chemistry this time.
Chemistry, the study of matter, and its transformations.
And there's been a fascinating breakthrough, the creation of berkelium.
Berkelium, yes, the first organometallic molecule containing berkelium.
Now, berkelium, that's a synthetic element, right?
It is not found in nature.
An organometallic, what does that mean?
It means the molecule has a bond between a carbon atom and a metal atom.
So it combines organic and metallic properties?
Exactly, which often leads to unique characteristics.
So what's special about organometallic compounds?
Well, they can be quite sensitive, for example.
Sensitive to air or moisture?
Yes, they can degrade easily.
And their heat stability can vary a lot.
Some are very stable, others break down quickly,
And some can even conduct electricity.
which makes them interesting for electronics and material science.
So a whole range of potential applications.
Definitely. And this discovery with berkelium opens up new avenues for research.
A new tool in the chemist's toolbox.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, let's take a moment now to remember a significant figure in Indian history.
A visionary leader and freedom fighter.
Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia. We recently observed his birth anniversary.
The man who left an indelible mark on India.
So tell us a bit about him.
Well, he was born in Akbarpur, Uttar Pradesh.
And went on to become a key figure in our freedom struggle.
He was a passionate advocate for social justice.
And a prolific writer.
His ideas continue to resonate today.
So what were his key contributions?
Well, he played an active role in the Quit India movement.
Facing imprisonment for his beliefs.
He also protested against Portuguese rule in Goa.
Extending his fight for freedom beyond India's borders.
He was a true internationalist.
And he had a strong social vision.
He believed in eradicating inequalities based on caste, class, and gender
He championed economic democracy.
as a mean to achieve social justice,
And he outlined his political vision in a 6-point plan.
advocating for things like maximum equality, a global standard of living, even a world government.
Very progressive ideas.
He was ahead of his time in many ways.
And he wrote extensively on these topics.
Books like The Caste System, Wheel of History, Marx, Gandhi, and Socialism.
Influential works that continue to be studied today.
His core values of justice, equality, selflessness, and nonviolence.
Still relevant today.
More than ever.
A true inspiration.
He was a remarkable individual,
Okay, let's shift gears now to a more contemporary issue.
something that's causing a lot of buzz.
AI washing.
AI washing, yes, a term that's gaining traction.
What exactly is it?
It's similar to greenwashing.
Where companies exaggerate their environmental credentials.
Exactly, but with AI washing, they overstate or misrepresent their use of AI,
To make themselves look more attractive to investors.
especially venture capitalists who are eager to fund AI startups.